Out Facebook, you wrote out YouTube.
We'll do when it comes on.
Make sure we don't get any feedback.
It doesn't come on at the time that you've set. You know, you've set this up to be 1600, right? And it never comes on at that time. On at the time that you've set. You know, see, there you go. See, there's that guy blooming complaining. Oh dear.
Right, that's Facebook side of public as well now.
Right.
Anyway, good afternoon, folks, and happy Thanksgiving to our American viewers.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a nice that he's out the fucking road. We can get on with it.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Did 7 seconds pass before I swore there?
Don't know, David.
Oh, naughty boy! I need to remember these rules.
And maybe I should be careful not to swear myself. I wrote a post this morning saying, should the people of Gaza celebrate Thanksgiving with the Americans? What do you think?
Don't know. Right, another wee announcement. Well, people get on board David, although we're up there the 100 mark.
Yep.
And that is for those who have followed me on Facebook for years will know that I do a broadcast on Christmas Day for those who live by themselves, so that they have somebody to tune into and somebody to have a chat with, because we just see what's in the comments. Well, this year it'll be the first time it'll be coming to YouTube as well. So that's the announcement, folks. The Indie Truck Davy Christmas special will be coming to YouTube as well as Facebook this year.
What time are you going to do it? You're going to do it 3 o'clock, so you're blacking out the top of King Big Ear's speech, yeah?
No, I do between 11 and 1.
All right, okay.
Because people sit down to their dinner after 1. Sorry. Apparently, I've been informed that it'll be between 12 and 2 this year for some reason.
Right.
So there you have it, folks. For those that have followed me on Facebook for years will know that I think this is the 5th year of the Christmas Day special. I think this will be the 5th year of it.
Will you be wearing your special little hat again?
Probably. Yeah. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's wake up. Wake up, old man.
Yeah, sorry. I'm under the influence of painkillers at the moment, so I'll do my best.
Right, MSP's call for ceasefire in Gaza. In the Israeli-Palestine conflict. And the First Minister writes to Sunak to encourage him to recognise the state of Palestine. Because apparently the UK doesn't recognise Palestine.
But in Scotland, I would be surprised if we didn't vote for a ceasefire. Because in Scotland, it's like, we're no bastards. Well, we've got some bastards. There was 29 of them, right? But for the most part, it was 90 voted for the ceasefire.
And I see that Sarwar didn't get into the pressure for doing south. Which was an amendment and for pauses. But the Tories did.
Yeah, I hate the wee bastard Sarwar. I do. I do, right? I can't say anything different than that because he's Labour. But I've got to admire him for blooming standing his ground on that. I really do. Yeah, so.
Fair dues to them. So only the Tories voted against. Any surprise there? No, because we know that Sunak's family have got a 1.5 billion contract for BP to drill for gas and oil off the Gazan coast. That's what this is all about, David.
Yeah. You'll be quite happy.
Thanks, Stephen. Thank you very much. And thank you for your earlier contribution. A popcorn for rants. You'll be needing it. You'll be needing it. So, the Scottish Government and the Scottish Parliament call for a ceasefire. That makes them the second administration on these islands to call for such a ceasefire. So that makes Westminster the odd man out again.
Yeah. at the moment, we've got Israel being pushed into the International Criminal Court. Yeah, there are over 3,000 lawyers now assembled, putting together cases, individual little bits of cases for war crimes. Right? They'll deal with the Israeli government. They'll deal with Netanyahu and all his blooming scoundrels that sit round about him. But I tell you what, they won't stop there. I'll bet you. They'll be dealing with America, and they'll be dealing with Britain, and they'll be dealing with France. Even though Macron has now said, look, fair enough, we need a full ceasefire. He's seen the light, all right. But still in all, for his initial thing of where he was saying we support Israel, their right to defend themselves. Defend themselves. Anyway, I'm getting sick of it.
The split in the EU is there's 9 EU states that on the calling for a ceasefire, the rest are. So the split in the EU on the situation they're all. But as I say, we can just be happy that our government is calling for a ceasefire. It just adds pressure.
No, this is completely off the wall, right? Okay. You've got the situation with Ukraine, Putin, Russia, right? The Parliament in the UK weren't slow at having a go at Putin, reference the attacking Ukraine, right? And yet we've got Israel, Palestine, Netanyahu. And which side do they support? Effectively, if you put it in place as being Russia and Ukraine, they'd be supporting Putin, Russia against Ukraine. Yeah, look at it. You know,
that makes you think there's no back and base sides.
You know, but the thing is, though, it's double standards. It's double standards. Why are all these politicians supporting effectively what would be down the road Putin and Russia when they've had a go at Putin and Russia against
Israel, right, against Putin and Russia. I get what you're coming from. But as I say, main thing is that our government adds to the international pressure by calling for a ceasefire. Simple as that. For all the influence that Scotland has, because let's face it, the UK government grandstands on the international stage for our behalf. Right, let's move on, David. The Stonehouse Institute had a look at all the polls over the last 18 months and have said it will only take a 6% shift towards the Tories for a hung Westminster Parliament.
No, I tell you what, they're going to be racing each other to not get elected. Seriously, you know, it'll be on the ballot paper. It'll be Tories, don't vote for us. It'll be Labour, no, don't vote for us.
But you're with only a 6% shift.
Yeah.
Because that would take Labour down from 40 to 34 and the Tories up to 32% of the vote share. And that would see a hung Parliament, apparently. And given what went on yesterday and the way that some people think about what went on yesterday, we'll cover that when we get to the autumn statement. But as I say, 6% shift's not a lot. And that autumn statement might just be enough to shift it.
Yes.
You know, but we'll get to that. Let's move on.
There'll be a lot of people out there that don't own calculators, right? And they'll be thinking, oh, look at that money we've got back off our national insurance. They're thinking that solves things.
No, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in the fiscal drag. Right. The Grangemouth refinery under threat. 400
using big words with me.
What's that?
Fiscal drag. You're using fiscal drag. What are you doing using big words like that on me?
Anyway, Grangemouth refinery at risk. Now, this is a refinery that supplies 70 to 80% of the diesel and petrol used in Scotland and the north of England. You get the feeling they're trying to ruin our fucking economy.
Yes, but I also believe that with Ratcliffe, he's not going to close that refinery. He's simply not. It's brinksmanship. That's all I believe. I could be totally wrong, but I think it's brinksmanship. He's done it before.
We had this at the last referendum, so they must really be shiting themselves down that road if they're coming to that again.
Yeah. Well, what I reckon the solution is, it doesn't take that much engineering to produce what's called a refinery stack. Yeah, you've all seen the chemistry thing of where eventually at the very, very top you've got all the thin naphtha and all that sort of thing, and the heavier oils come out the bottom. It's like, I reckon we should actually put one stack 2 miles down the road from Grangemouth and say, Ratcliffe, we're now in competition with you, and he would absolutely shite a brick. Seriously.
Aye.
Yeah.
As I say, well, this is the same carry on we had prior to the last referendum. Yeah. We're back where we were. While Mr. Ratcliffe, being rich enough, has got 1.3 billion to spend on a failing football team. The reason why they're failing is because they need fucking money. The price they're paying for players that are all duffers. Man United's not doing well. But, as I say, we had this prior to the last referendum and all. Ratcliffe getting it to pull out.
He's done it. It's not just the referee. He's done it a few times.
Aye, he did. Aye, he leveraged money out of the Scottish Government in 2016 and all. I think it was to fix some of the tanks under the bloody place.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, so it isn't he?
This is just brinksmanship. That's all it is. I believe it is. And Mr. E, I know you were worried about that situation with the Grangemouth.
And everyone, it is a dead cat. You're right, but as I say, we're going to discuss it because it is putting the fear of God up to the whole city of fucking the whole town of Grangemouth.
If Ratcliffe actually put Grangemouth up, he wouldn't close it. If he put it up for sale, then at the end of the day, it's like I'd go, nah, don't bother. We'll build another one 2 or 3 miles down the road. Simple as that. Because it's not rocket science. Might be rocket fuel, but it's not rocket science.
That's for sure. Right, and of course we had the European election the other day there, Wednesday, in Holland, and it would appear the Dutch lots to the right.
Yeah.
You know, Geert Wilders from the Freedom Party.
So, are they going to be able to form a government? Because don't forget, it's we discussed prior to
the numbers in a minute. But the leader of the right-wing party who took the most seats in the Parliament, Geert Wilders, from the Freedom Party, he's calling for an EU referendum on leaving the EU to stop illegal migration.
So, in other words, he's doing the same as Boris did, or was it Farage who was talking about the Turkish people? 20 million Turkish people hitting Great Britain all at once.
And busloads of Romanians, remember that one?
That was right, yep. And on TV, for the 6 weeks before the vote, do you remember that every night on the news, you had pictures of these people walking along train tracks, heading into Europe, all the refugees, and they gave the impression of that they're going to turn left at some point and head for Britain, guys. Yeah? And the Garmins went, oh, that's dreadful, right? So that's why we ended up with Brexit.
Hey, right, one.
Another one.
That's the one I'm looking for. For a change, Billy says something sensible, so we'll put it up. Aye, Billy, populism breeds fascism. Aye, it does. Yeah. But as I say, the Dutch have moved to the right, but as you pointed out, David, between the Labour, Green and Conservatives, there are their versions of it. Although you could argue that the Freedom Party is maybe a branch of conservatism, if you like. But the majority of the seats are still with the other parties, so there's every chance that Muppet might not get to form a government.
Yeah, they could do a Scottish council job, couldn't they? the SNP won the election, and then the Tories and Labour, or the red and blue Tories, clubbed together to actually keep the SNP out.
They could do but I don't think the people of the Netherlands would vote to leave the EU at this point. No, having looked at the disaster that's across the fucking sea.
Yeah, it might be that they voted for that particular party, but maybe that particular party weren't very vocal on the run-up to the election about having a Brexit vote, or not a Brexit vote, it would be a Brexit vote, wouldn't it?
Next,
I think in that situation, they've still got to form a government, and I don't know if the other players are going to be prepared to play with them.
No, find the roof, no, I agree with you. I'm hoping that I don't know how their system works. Could it be that if the biggest party can't form a government and the others can't get into agreement, maybe rerun the election?
Yeah, we're pissing about with Holland and all the rest of it, right? I was wishing the day it was going to be something with Sweden so I can do my Swedish chef. The hoody schmoody, the biscuit, the chicken and the biscuit, yeah. Yeah, sorry guys, it's because I'm on these things.
Lee Anderson thinking about putting refugees in Scottish Islands. Listen, that was floating about the Home Office a couple of years ago and all. We's not the first one to come away with it. I think it was Patel was the first one to come away with it.
In actual fact, see if they did that, right? We would make those refugees the most welcome people in the world. They'd have a lovely life. We'd make sure of it, right? So 30p Lee is actually taking that as being a punishment for those people who are silly enough to row their way across to this island. But seriously, he would be smelling the outside his face.
Aye. They say, but the Dutch seem to have lots to the right as well. Populism sweeping Europe, and it's dangerous. As Billy Holland has pointed out, it does lead to fascism.
Yeah, yes, it does.
You know,
basically it comes down to it's young hotheads, isn't it? You've actually seen the thing of where they've got the black or Asian communities, and you see the young lads going and smashing up cars and all the rest of it, right? And that's what they're having to deal with at the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Aye, everyone were aware of the maths. David and I were looking at it before. They say, but the problem is whether the parties are going to join, they've got to keep them out. Because the Freedom Party is the biggest, has got the majority of seats, or whether they can cobble together a coalition with one of the other parties to actually form a government. So we are aware of that. But as I say, this right wing, this trend to the right that's happening right across Europe is pretty, and America is pretty worrying. It is pretty worrying.
Do you think, David, in terms of campaigning, right? You know, we've all heard our Tommy Sheridan, and he's very populist, isn't he? He seems to say all the right things that gets the people cheering for him and clapping and all the rest of it. I wonder if that's the sort of trick that these people have done. And when it comes to it, when they actually get in, are they going to do any of what they say?
Listen, you know my thoughts on this. If a parliamentarian hasn't achieved their objective within 2 terms, they shouldn't be allowed to be restoring again.
That's right, absolutely.
But you've got to remember, once you get into Parliament, whether it's the Scottish Parliament or the Westminster Parliament, you're then up against the state, you're up against the system.
Yeah.
And everything moves extremely slowly.
Yeah.
You know, everything moves extremely slowly. Talk about things that didn't move extremely slowly. COVID inquiry.
Oh, yes. Now then, Sir Patrick Vallance. We all sat there and we listened. And what I liked was when he was asked about the Scottish Eve system, which is the databases and the reporting that Scotland does, he did nothing but glow about it. He said Scotland stand on their own as being the finest reporting, and we could always rely on the information that was coming out of these databases. And it's what I've been saying time and time again. We get drawn across the coals as the sick man of Europe, the highest drug instance in Europe, the highest COVID in the UK, and all the rest of it, right? It's only because our lot's blooming properly reported what's happening till we miss one for that died of blooming COVID. Right?
You talk about the sick man of Europe, the drugs thing. Did you hear that Penny Mordaunt bitch in the UK Parliament? The SNP's legacy is going to be one places for more junkies to take their heroin.
Yeah, ridiculous.
That's a disgusting creature, isn't she?
Because that is a slur against every man, woman, and child in Scotland, right? And it's ridiculous. We shouldn't have to put up with that. We should not have to put up with that. In actual fact, I think she's Tory scum. Anyway, that's another story.
Hey, Alistair, I seen your earlier comment on what's my take on the monetary union we've just signed up with. We didn't. It's a new fiscal framework. It's not a monetary union. We're still in the monetary union because we're still in the union. So it's a new fiscal framework, and it was basically put in place because of the high inflation rates, because the Scottish government had to be budget had to be inflation proof. So the new fiscal framework was put in place in order to inflation proof the Scottish budget.
Yeah. Alistair, just to let you know, we do read everything that you put up, certainly before the programme starts. And we saw you.
Quick for me. But they like to try and keep up with your comments. Now, they say the COVID inquiry, Sir Patrick Vallance, full of praise for the Scottish system of recording and reporting. But that wasn't the bit that was interesting me. It was when he was calling all his diary entries, calling Boris Johnson a fucking idiot, and it comes to light that Sunak says just let them die. Just let them die.
That should have seen Sunak marched out of number 10 and on his way.
Yeah,
Listen, somebody else.
What this COVID inquiry has shown is a dereliction of duty. First duty of government, protect the people.
Yeah.
To actually say, just let them die, is a dereliction of duty, and it's treasonous.
And he's a Tory scum.
We'll get to that one later, that's fine. But, you see, people have heard me saying this with Cabby the truck there and there again. First duty of government, protect the people. And it's quite clear these people weren't interested in protecting the people. So that's dereliction, that's dereliction of duty. And that's treasonous.
That's right. It is actually treason. It is, really, when you think about it. Yeah. Yeah.
But, as I say, they should be in jail. This immunity that they give themselves, that shouldn't count when it comes to treason.
As far as I'm concerned, the immunity was just bits of paper that put up in the way. When it comes right down to it, I believe that they can still get taken to court and charged with negligence or worse, as in the case of Rishi Sunak. Just let them die.
But then it comes to light in Patrick Vallance's testimony that they didn't go to SAGE for advice before launching the Eat Out to Help Out scheme, which seen infection rates soared by 17%. God knows how many people it killed. I said it at the time, it was to get the middle classes out their houses so that they could take it back to Granny and kill her.
Yeah, but also with previous week we were discussing that they had bought up every bit of advertising space in all the newspapers in Wales, in Northern Ireland, and Scotland, and basically saying, that's it, guys, you can come out your houses now and all the rest of it, right? They had no right to do that, right? Okay, Northern Ireland didn't have a working government at the time. Certainly Scotland did, and Wales did. And that should have been a case of, right, come on, you're out of there. Number 10, let's get some security guards in there and get these people out.
Well, it would appear that Sunak and them knew that they eat out to help. I said this at the time for the truck. I advise people not to go.
Yeah.
Can't remember if I was in the. I was in the truck at the time. All the way through COVID, I was in the truck, and I advised people not to take this up. And I told them exactly what it was. Sunak's plan was. It was to get the middle classes who had gardens and who could afford to get their food delivered out of their houses, so that they could take the disease back to the elderly and their families and wipe them out.
But also at that time, we had the kids, and the Tories putting pressure. Oh, the kids need to go to school, right? And you know, both you and I at that time talked about the schools being a big petri dish.
That's right, aye.
You know, kids would mix together, and nowadays the kids are, oh, how you doing, Gene? And they're cuddle and all the rest of it, right? And then they go back home, and there's Auntie Margaret and their granny and all the rest of it, and they're all getting COVID. That happened.
Yep, I'll tell you one better than that. Sunak knew it. That when he put this scheme in place, he was going to be killing more people. What we're learning from this inquiry, nobody's shocked or surprised that they're incompetent fuckers. Or that they're evil buggers who decided the best thing to do was just wipe out the elderly.
Yeah.
You know, Boris Johnson. This is how you're dealing with the elderly. Wow.
Yeah. Also, as far as Sunak's concerned, right, when he was a Chancellor, right, I can't understand. I've got a business there, and I actually took a bounce back loan. The reason he took a bounce back loan if you're in business was you don't know what's coming down the line, right? So I took a bounce back loan. Now, I had to jump through all kinds of hoops. I had to be in business for so many years. I had to have, it was based, the amount I could take was based on my turnover, right? And but down in England, seemingly, you could a dog in the street could end up getting a bounce back loan. You didn't have to have any.
We'll get to that a bit later on in the broadcast, because
literally you could set up 5 minutes and then take a bounce back loan, and a lot of these companies just went pop as you expect them to, and then that means the Exchequer, the Treasury, the taxpayer ends up footing the bill.
Aye, but as I say, what we're learning from this inquiry was that they just didn't give a shite.
Yeah.
They just didn't give a shite. Boris Johnson let the bodies pile high. Then we find out he can't retain facts in his head for any more than a couple of hours. Like, fuck, you're like a goldfish. Yeah. Can't retain facts, Fallons tells us. The Fallons tells us was the ninth fucking guy for the job.
No, but that's a symptom of a lazy mind, and it was what happened was they talked about Boris and the fact that they had to leave wee bits of paper about for him just to remind him on things so he could go back to, oh yeah, what's that? All right, okay. He's got a lazy mind. You know, you'd imagine that not me at the moment because I'm paying my foot, but David has got to research everything for this program in a lot of depth. So he doesn't have a lazy mind, right? Boris Johnson definitely did.
But as I say, as we watch this unfold, the main thing that cuts right through with me is it's eugenics.
Yeah.
And this started in 2011. All that happened with COVID was it helped speed it up. They were already on course to kill as many as they could. With austerity. They cracked down on disability rights and disability income. They know they were killing people. I'll tell you what, when we get to the autumn statement, which is coming up next, some of the stuff there was pretty horrific. It's going to kill people.
Yeah.
But as I say, what we're learning for this COVID inquiry, folks, is down that road, they just did not give a shite. It was dereliction of duty, and they're all guilty of treason. Every one of them.
They just they couldn't give a shite. Now, what does that say to you? We know that in Israel, the Palestinians are seen as being second class or third class people. But in actual fact, they're not considered as human. They're subhuman, right? I honestly believe that we've got the same thing in this country. And your big Tories, they don't consider me, David, or any of you as being worthwhile human beings. We are scum to them, right?
We'll get me on stuff later, will we?
And that is now being proven by the inquiry and what's being said. Yes.
Yeah.
So we need to get these people out of power. We need to take the reins of power from their hands. If it's got to be Starmer that goes in place to get them out of power, then fair enough. But then we'll have to quickly turn on Starmer to get him out. Yeah.
But
so
the way his party's
Yeah.
going to war with itself, and the same as the Tories are going to war. But look, if Sunak or Starmer or leader come the next election.
Yeah.
You know, the way things are going in their parties. Well, that'll bring us to the big subject for the day, David. The autumn statement.
Yes.
Right.
I always like I just wait until the leaves come off the trees and my thing, isn't it nice? That's my autumn statement.
Right.
There you go.
Well, we'll stick to the one that Jeremy, who put out yesterday.
Jeremy, don't you dare. All right.
Anyway,
don't use
national insurance. Employees' national insurance will be cut from 12% to 10% from January the 6th. Anybody get it? Yeah, there's an election coming, David. Self-employed people will benefit from the act.
Here's the important one. That goes in place on the 2nd of January. That backs up the fact that we think it's going to be a May election.
It's the 6th of January, but I think there's going to be a May election, because you'll also have the budget in April, and watch for more giveaways there, right? So anyway, on national insurance, 2 million self-employed will benefit from the action of Class 2 national insurance and the cut to Class 4 national insurance contributions to 8%. Mr. Hunt said that will leave people who are self-employed about 350 quid a year better off. And they said it won't affect their contributions towards a state pension somehow. Right, but
also there was one section of the self-employed community where they won't pay anything whatsoever. There was the one bit where they were exempt. Was it Class 2 payments, and they went forget
David, they were £3.40 a week.
Yeah.
But even at that, anything coming out of the Treasury is not a good idea at this point in time. Public services will suffer. Anyway, the national insurance cut comes against a backdrop of frozen tax thresholds for income tax. Earnings, and people think they're getting a wee bit extra, but because they're not moving the threshold to £12,570 a year, everybody is getting an £1,800 pay rise. It's taking them all into tax. They were never in tax before.
Yeah.
So the fiscal drag, as they call it, is going to affect us all. So
can go on then, David. Now I know fine well you keep all these things in your back pocket. These big words. Fiscal drag. Explain, please.
What do you think a drag is? Anyway.
All right. Explain it. So if I understand it, they'll all understand it. Go on.
Okay then. We're all getting a pay rise of 1,800 quid, right? Through national insurance and the rise of minimum wage. That's the poorest people will get a rise of 1,800 quid, right? But the drag is created by the fact that the rate of income tax is frozen. So those up to 40%, right? So anybody there in that bracket getting that pay rise will actually they'll think they'll get more in their pocket, but they won't be able to buy as much for it. They're not any better off. It's just a bigger number, which will only allow them to maintain their income level at what it is. Because there's other things that affect fiscal drag. You've got price rises in electricity. You've got food price inflation. You've got the inflation rate. You've got interest rates. They all move much more slower than the announcements made, so you're not any better off, basically.
Right. So we were sold a pup, were we?
Of course.
basically.
Of course you were.
Yeah. But we knew that, okay, lots of us knew that because what's the old golden rule? Never, ever, ever trust a
Why
Tory.
wouldn't it just be a Tory doing this? This would be a Labour government doing it at all.
That's what I meant.
Right, let's get back to what other announcements were made in the autumn statement, shall we? So, we've got national insurance, we've got tighter welfare rules. These ones are pretty horrific. If you haven't found a job in 18 months, you'll be forced to take on a work experience under plans to get more people into employment, and the government has already announced this. Right? Those who do not comply will have the benefits, including access to free prescriptions and legal aid cut off. Wow. So if you can't find a suitable job in 18 months, you will find yourself destitute with no access to medicines and no legal recourse. So what we're talking about is people being put out with society. That's going to kill people.
Yeah.
That is seriously going to kill people. Right, universal credit increases. The government chose to raise universal credit by September 6.7% rate of inflation, despite speculation that they might have used October's 4.6. But anyway, the big problem for what he's done with the giveaways here, David, is right. He's taken away with what they call any wriggle room in the public finances. And he's basically, the giveaways are actually going to become unaffordable from 25 onwards because the economy is shrinking.
Yes.
So Labour are going to find themselves in a position where they're in a couple of years' time, they're not going to be able to fund what Hunt's done, so they're going to have to reverse it.
Well, Labour are going to have to do something because if they get into power, if they get into number 10, they're going to have to try and prove themselves to the British public, the UK public, as in, look, we're doing something, right? Whereas if the Tories win at the next election, they just don't give it.
They don't give it that. The next one, they're just cut it all again, David. You know. Anyway, it's a bit of a trap for any incoming chancellor. To be fair, that was a very political statement as well. Business rates, right? The standard multiplier for rates on high value properties will increase in line with inflation, while small business multiplier will freeze for a further year, and the 75% rate discount for retail, hospitality, and leisure will be extended for another year. That's for businesses. Pensions to go up by 8.5% in line with the average earnings, and that will take your state pension to £21 a week from April next year. So they're basically a triple lockstide in place, right? The other thing is they're now going to let you manipulate your workplace pension. Thanks, Alison. They're going to manipulate the workplace pension to allow you to say to your employer, I want you to pay it into this fund. And I think that's going to do with this £320 million they're unlocking of our pension money so that the speculators in the city can invest in tech businesses apparently. So
Indian businesses like Infosys.
Aye.
There you go.
Another measure for businesses is something called full expensing. The full expensing is a scheme allowing companies to offset investment in machinery and equipment against their tax bill, and that will be made permanent. So if you've got a business and you need to buy a new machine, you can deduct it for the amount of tax you owe. Alcohol and tobacco duty. Alcohol duty will be frozen until August 1st, 2024, meaning no increase in duty on beer, cider, wines or spirits. But duty on hand-rolled tobacco will rise by 10%. This one's a wee bit of a rent relief, and that's a housing benefit to get up by about £800 a year. That's the translation, or 30% of local rent, the lowest 30%, or the lowest 30% of rents in your rental market.
Right. So, who are the biggest owners of tenanted properties?
Well, who do you know? The local authorities, but no, it's the Tories, of course.
The Tories, and so who do you think helps that helps.
Well, it helps keep their houses full instead of them having empty houses still, where they can't afford, nobody can afford to rent. So aye.
And so therefore, what Hunt's doing is he's taking a lump of money out of the treasury that belongs to us, right? And he's giving it to the people that own the tenanted properties,
right?
Yeah. And that's what the Tories are all about, and always have been about, is taking money out of the public purse and giving it to their mates. That's it. End of story.
So anyway, the free zone, the rent allowance has come up, and it should see an average £800 merit support for each family, and rented property up to a certain percent. Now, the other big announcement was the government's going to sell its stake in NatWest, but it's not going to sell it to business. Apparently, they're going to sell it to the general public. In other words, we'll get a chance to buy stakes in NatWest.
Right. Okay. Is that a positive or a negative for the taxpayers?
That depends. If you're going to buy shares, you're gambling in the market, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you bought shares on the banking crash when you could pick up banking shares for 30, 40 pence, right now you've made a killing.
Aye. And also, within the NatWest group is Coots, which is where all the rich bods keep their money, right? And I would imagine that could be quite good, unless, of course, they split off bits of it and they just make it the NatWest Bank that's given to.
Shares in NatWest, it's the NatWest group, right? But let's put it this way: when they defloat it, Joe Bloggs isn't going to have enough money to buy any fucking shares.
Right, okay, yes, fair enough.
So when they talk about selling it to the public, they're talking about selling it to themselves.
Yeah, but I thought they were actually changing the ISA bit of legislation that went through, whereas you might not be able to buy a single share in that. However, with an ISA, you can buy a part of a share.
Right. Yeah. But Helen, RBS is part of NatWest Group. We're talking about the group. They're talking about selling their stake in the NatWest Group. That includes the RBS shares. But when they're talking about selling it to the public folks, they're not talking about selling it to you and me. Because I might be able to afford a few shares, David might be able to afford a few shares, but your average man on the street just doesn't have the money lying about, because they're only worth buying in blocks of maybe 100.
However, find out about the ISA trick, because it might be that you could afford maybe £100, couple of £100 to go into shares. You can buy a fraction of a share using an ISA. That's the new rule, and that's come in at the same time as the autumn statement.
But you're all right, Helen. As I say, but that's and the other thing in the autumn statement which surprised me. I mean, apparently 7 million quid of public money will be given to organisations like the Holocaust Education Trust to address anti-Semitism in schools and universities. I didn't know anti-Semitism was right in schools and universities, did you?
It's not.
So basically, the UK government is giving our money to Israeli lobby groups.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
As David mentioned, there was a fair bit about ISIS that wasn't mentioned in the statement itself, but when you get the document, there's 110 measures in it. We're only talking about the ones really that affect Joe Bloggs.
We recommend, what's the name of the guy that we put up? And he talked about bits that weren't mentioned. What's the guy, money saving expert?
Mark
Lewis, yeah. Do go looking at Martin Lewis's latest video, and he does explain a lot of this, and it's actually quite good what he puts up. Because let's face it, he's been good. Thank you, Liz. Thank you very much. He's been good at giving people the inside track on what's actually going on. Right. So I do suggest you have a look at his latest video.
So basically, in the autumn statement, folks, you're not going to be any better off.
Yeah.
look as if you've got a wee bit more money in your bank account, but it ain't going to be any more. You're not going to, it's not going to be any more buying power than what it would have today. Simple as that.
Anyway, I think we've done Mr. Hunt to death.
Right, you're going to give us the details of the deal that's been struck for a 4-day ceasefire in Israel and Palestine.
It's a liquid situation. Things are changing all the time. So what I'm going to give you is what I've got up to now, right? Temporary ceasefire. I'm going to give you the facts that go behind it, right? The people that are involved, the Israelis, are inhuman bastards, and the inhuman bastards also in the Labour and Tory parties got their way. A temporary ceasefire pause has been agreed. Right, let's wind that back a bit. What does a temporary ceasefire mean? Number one, Gaza is an open prison. You can move about within its walls, but you cannot leave. 2, the ceasefire will last for 4 days. Then the genocide recommences. That means that you still have a sentence of death hanging over your head, and that sentence will be carried out once the Israelis restart the carpet bombing. What a chilling thought. Okay, so the deal is, now remember, it was supposed to come in at 10 o'clock this morning, local time, Palestinian time, okay? So the deal is 50 Israeli women and children hostages to be released by Hamas in exchange for 4 days of ceasefire, plus a release of 10 captives to gain 1 extra day of ceasefire. 300 trucks of aid, including food and fuel, will be allowed into Gaza inside the 4-day ceasefire. How far up Gaza they'll be able to go is another question, because once you get beyond a certain point, it's just rubble, right? A curious one. This really is curious, and David and I can't really figure this one out. Israel will not, this is the exact wording, Israel will not use drones for 6 hours a day during the temporary ceasefire. If any of you can figure that out, tell me, because I couldn't work it out, all right? Then next, we've got 150 Palestinian women and children will be released from Israeli jails. The number will not include anyone convicted of murder. And the other one is no Palestinians to be allowed back into North Gaza for the duration of the pause. So that means if somebody was forced to leave their house and actually run south, they kind of say, oh, right, okay, I'll wait until the ceasefire started and I'll go back north because I forgot Auntie Jeannie's pictures and all the rest, and I'll get those. They're not being allowed. They're not being allowed. Okay. Israeli forces to resume the genocide after the end of the ceasefire. The temporary ceasefire goes into effect, as I said, 10 a.m. It will be 10 a.m. local Gaza time tomorrow, Friday. Okay? And as David quite rightly pointed out, what's the holy day? What's the Muslim holy day?
Friday.
Yeah. So it looks like the Israelis don't want all the hostages released. You know, that's 50 hostages getting released. So it looks like they don't want all the hostages released, and they just prefer it if they could continue pounding the Gaza Strip into dust. I believe that was the plan all along. I obviously wonder what the relatives of the Israeli hostages think about that. Don't you?
Aye. They don't want them all, they only want 50.
Yeah, well, you know, you'd imagine you go, oh, my brother's not in that number, right? Or my niece isn't in that number. What's happened with them? We've gone for 4 days. We've got 50 of the hostages, and then Israel start pounding it, you know, and they're thinking my relative's going to die.
Anyway, James is.
Yes,
James,
you're quite
absolutely correct. They need time to restock and re-equip. Right.
The really nice thing is that a lot of the weapons aren't getting through. Yeah. It's the people that work.
Sports and things like that are starting to refuse to handle this stuff.
Yeah. they're stopping. And in Australia, I believe they used the jet skis to actually block in a big boat that was tied up at the side, and it was going to leave and head for the Mediterranean. So anyway,
so people pressure is coming to bear on the buggers, but as James points out, they need a break to restock.
In actual fact, when you look at what Biden's coming out with, what he's actually saying, he's a dithery old kid. He really is. But some of the stuff he's changed his tune a little bit. Have you noticed that? Yeah.
More and more people are changing their tune, David, as the horror goes on.
Yeah.
You know.
I really do hope that the American people take Biden and everybody else that's been shown up to be getting money from this blooming this lobby group that they keep talking about, that they are booted out of government. These people are not fit.
Hey, Billy, two sensible statements for you in one day. Jesus Christ, we're going to pin this one. Shares and weapon funds are doing well.
Get the calendar out.
Tell you what, Billy, you never know. That could be your pension fund.
Aye.
It's doing well out of the murder.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
It could be my pension fund.
Yeah. Think of the Waynes that have died, and you're benefiting from that. It's not Billy. That's anybody that's got a pension, right? Where the fund could go into that, into weapons.
Yeah.
Wow. That's not a nice thought at all, is it?
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, if I find out that any of my pension is invested in weapons companies, then you can always divest yourself, move, But how many people actually look, David?
Yeah, that's
on the
right.
I already know where my pension fund's invested.
I had one pension whereby I could invest in the Pacific Fund or the European Fund. Didn't tell you what you were actually going for, Anyway, there you go.
Aye. As I say, I happen to know where my money's invested, so that's fine.
Yeah.
For my sake, anyway, I don't need to divest it away from I'm not invested in oil anymore, I'm not invested in tobacco anymore, I'm not invested in arms anymore.
So anyway, talking about investing, what do you think about businesses folding at the fastest rate since records began?
Aye, 2002 the records began. And it started out as a local story we were reading, David, as you know. It was about 1,000 businesses folding last year in North Lanarkshire.
Yeah.
In North Lanarkshire. Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, the IRP, the IRRP, a Centre for Economic Justice, is a think tank. Another one, but it's not a top-tier think tank. They know who's funding this one and things like that. What they're saying is that this doesn't look good for the UK economy, and that businesses across the UK are folding faster than they're being created for the first time since records were created in 2002.
David knows this as well, because it's like we both had businesses at one point, right? The whole thing is, when you sell a business, the bank will usually tell you that the majority of businesses will fold within the first 3 years, right? But what's been happening is it's becoming more and more difficult to keep a business going. Well, where I'm lucky is I don't employ somebody that would tear the life out of me if I employ somebody and get rid of them because I couldn't afford to keep them. But right now, businesses are well and truly up against it because of what the Tories have done, and because of what Labour have done by sitting on their fucking hands and allowing the Tories to get away with it instead of an opposition.
First, we'll deal with Mr. E. Thanks very much, Mr. E. Yes, please, folks. Remember that Muslim people are not all Hamas, and that Jewish people are not all the Israeli government. All right?
Yes, that's right.
And also, remember, we drop Thompson's bairns.
In actual fact, the one thing I've seen which is quite nice is the amount of traditional Jewish folk that have said, well, we're for the Palestinians. These people, they were even talking about they used to live together and they would babysit each other's wains and all the rest of it, right? That's nice. That's the way it should be, right? And and this thing. I mean, I'm a Christian, right? He's an atheist. That's his religion. I don't know where the church is that he goes to, but anyway. Anyway, it's, we should all be able to live together, right?
Aye. Now, David, can we go back to the business story? Because I want to tell people what the Centre for Economic Justice has said is the cause of it, right? Now, in their actual report, they name Brexit, energy costs, and dwindling disposable income, which are all the things the rest of us are blaming it on and all, So the fact that we Mrs. McGumpher's not got the money in her pocket to go out and spend means that businesses are shutting, which is what we've been talking about over the last couple of years.
It's just one big wheel, one big cartwheel just keeps on going round and round and round and round and round. And what happens is eventually there's not enough money coming around a cartwheel to keep these businesses going. And eventually what happens is they reduce in size, they start getting rid of people and all the rest of it until eventually that's it. The business owner has to go, I've got to let it fold. I've got to let it go.
Oh, aye. But it's by design.
I can't. And there are a few businessmen that I've known in my life that have been quite happy to do that, but I'm still no one of them.
But Billy, you'll be getting a bloody reputation for sensible comments, Richie. Stop it.
Hang on. Can we just do a quick round of applause for Billy? Well done, Billy. Well done, son. That's wonderful.
That's being a trot. I'm definitely pinning it this time. That's you getting a star for that one, Billy.
Well, Billy, we're not taking the piss. We're not, honestly. It's nice to see you. Obviously,
it's a bit of interaction. Billy knows that. Right, now, let's move on, folks. It's official. You can call the Tories scum if you want.
Yeah, that's really good, that is. The IDF. Hang on a second.
No IDF. IDS. Ian Duncan Smith.
IDS. Yes, sorry. I'm too used to saying IDF at the moment. Anyway, 2 protesters were reasonable in calling Ian Duncan Smith Tory scum outside of the Conservative Party conference. The High Court has ruled in a rejection of an attempt to overcome their acquittal. Lord Justice Popwell and Justice Fordham said no fault in law was made by a senior district judge last November in finding Ruth Wood, 52, and Radical Haslam, I'm sure that's deep hole, that is, right? Radical Haslam, 30, not guilty of using threatening, abusive, or insulting words or behaviour with intent. Okay? In response to a request for a judicial review from the Director of Public Prosecutions, the High Court found that Judge Goldspring, who is also described as Chief Magistrate, had made the important finding that the use of Tory scum was to highlight the policies of Duncan Smith, and that this was relevant to the reasonableness of the conduct in relation to the rights of freedom of expression and assembly. That's it. It's just fucking beautiful.
And Mr. Right? E, it's actually the Church of McEwen's export, no lager.
The thing about this is, be careful, right? When you start calling all the Tories scum, what they could do is they could effectively open up another case because it's against them. It's not against Ian Duncan Smith. But fuck them.
Oh no, as long as we state that we're calling them Tory scum because of the policies, they're scum.
Yes,
it's official. Right, and we're going to round off on 100 billion of government waste since 2019. That's the Westminster government, folks. This included crooked crony contracts, dodgy COVID recovery loans, Duff deals like HS2 and failed legal cases like Rwanda. What's interesting about that? That equates to 25 billion a year of wastage since this particular government came to power. Previous governments, the average waste would be about 5 billion.
Yep.
So the annual waste is quadrupled.
Please don't be confused with this, because in actual fact, we're talking about government waste. We're not talking about government debt. Government debt is going up and up and up and up and up, right? Okay, to the point of where we're now at 107% of debt to GDP, I believe. So in other words, that's like having you've had to put your rate up on your credit card, but now you're getting to the point you don't earn enough to physically pay the credit card off each, or down by what they're asking each month. Now the UK government are in a state whereby they can't keep up with the payments.
Well, as I say, it's been attributed to crooked contracts, COVID contracts, and 37 billion of that will probably be the test and trace app. You know, I've never heard of 37 billion for an app that didn't work.
You know, it's like I could have fiddled one out in my woman phone, because you make an app up, no bother at all.
Well, I suppose it had to do with the setting up of people supposed to be trying to trace people with COVID. Oh, bollocks, of course. Right, so as I say, it's due to theft, bad deals, dodgy loans, and failed legal cases.
It just seems to me that there's no justice anymore. In the past, something like that coming out would have been, yeah.
It's a bit like the COVID inquiry. Nobody's surprised to know that these buggers are stealing our money at a rapid rate of knots.
Yeah, it's just the total lack of justice that gets me. It's like these people should be behind bars for what they've done. And and to anybody listening in England, you're the ones that are getting hammered more than anybody. We've got a lack of democracy in Scotland, but it's you guys that are going to end up. You're going to lose everything. Yeah, NHS or the rest of it. That's ridiculous. Right. And then you've got the blooming water companies pouring shite everywhere. You know, I just feel sorry for the people in it. I really do.
Aye. Now we're going to end on the news that came out today, and we'll only go a couple of minutes. David, electricity prices to go up in the heart of winter by 5%.
Yeah, I know.
Now we've worked out for myself, it's roughly about 120 quid a year.
I do know for a fact I'm going to end up having to contact the police again. I'm going to have to go through the thing again to say to the police, look, guys, you're going to have to start watching out for the older ones in the community, or single parents, wee lasses with babies, that sort of thing, where they can't afford to keep the heating on.
Right? It's time to your councils, folks. This is where people power comes in. Go onto your councils, make sure community centres, libraries, and that are open, and warm banks this winter.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Just one wee thing that came up there was about, it was £100 billion. But what about the iPad from Ian McNeil? Ian, believe it or not, we're both SNP members, and we want his head on a plate. Simple as that. What an idiotic thing! You've got an iPad where he's doing government business, and he hands it to his big Wayne to watch bloody football.
On his salary, you buy his Wayne his own bloody iPad and put some card in it, wouldn't you?
Correct.
Anyway, absolutely. David, I don't really want to talk about the incompetence of Mr. Matheson's private life. As far as his ministerial position, he's doing well in that. But this sort of incompetence, you still see him resign, and it would give a wee bit of respite to the crap that we're getting in the press, because that's what it is. It's another dead cat on the fucking table. And it's getting in the way of things that are really important that needs to be dealt with in the Scottish Parliament.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, as a campaigner for the SNP, what a twat! What an absolute twat! Having to blooming, you know, explain or try to spin somebody's blooming done something fucking stupid. Sorry, I'm not playing that game. Simple as that. The guy was a silly twat, silly idiot, and he should pay the ultimate price. He should fall on his own bloody sword. Simple as that.
The buying
Okay.
electricity, get him a. I don't know what the story is with dual fuel, David. I mean,
Yeah,
I haven't heard about gas prices yet.
we've just got it's going to turn into an even harder winter for some people than it was last year. And it's like, you guys, I said it to you last year, start looking out for each other, because see, if you don't, we're going to end up where maybe a young lass with a baby are going to end up dying of the cold, or the old dear that lives 2 doors down for you, she dies of the cold. What a horrible way to die. You know, and basically all they needed was maybe invite them into your house for a wee bit of warmth. You know, it's simple as that. You know,
Aye.
or a few quid to put in the meter, simple as that. You know what I mean? So, end of. I'm not going to do this. You've all got consciences. I know you have.
We already know that the people who watch the show are generous of heart. If they're getting 800 quid a month to get you food banks.
Exactly right.
You know.
Yeah.
So but we do need to watch out for our neighbours again this year as we did last year. As I say, it's important we got onto our local councils and ensure that they keep facilities open for warm banks.
You know, I know this might be embarrassing to people, but at the moment I kind of walk with a blooming walking stick.
Apparently gas is
I'm
5% tea, David. Once somebody just looked up.
I'm certainly going to go to the wee lady that's at the end of our road and go in and make sure she's all right, that she's got everything she needs, and that she's warm enough, right? I think we should all blooming do that. We should all just go and chat with her. How you doing, Ginny? I haven't spoke to you this year. Blah 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 blah. Get talking.
Aye, anyway, David, we tend to be a wee bit more friendly towards each other. I mean, I'm no a religious man, as you know, but I do find that in December, generally people behave a bit better towards each other, except for when it comes to Christmas party night, where they all act like arseholes.
Yeah.
Now, I need to wind this one up, David, as you know, I start working in 50 minutes. So, I hope you found it entertaining today.
That also goes for all yous around the world. Start chatting your neighbours. Don't be so insular. All right.
Anyway,
sorry.
Saying, hope you found what we did entertaining. We hope you found it informative. If you did, hit the like button on YouTube, hit the like button on Facebook, and share across your social media platforms, please. Right. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe. As I say, the like button is quite important. It helps the algorithm if you're on YouTube. Okay. Now, David, that just leaves one thing left for us to do.
Sorry for being a junkie.
You get back on the meds, boy. They're working.
I'll go back
on the meds, boy. They're working.
It's taken the whole programme, but the ones I took just before the programme are starting to work.
Right, as I say, that just leaves one thing today. Bye, David.
Bye, David.